and welcome to part 2 of the whole Kobbe to Misfits debate. Like I said at the end of the solo segment, I'm joined by a special guest, the Misfits team writer for journalist site The Game House. And, you know what? Thinking about it, I'm not going to try and pronounce properly, so come ahead and introduce yourself. It's just not worth it.
You coward. You shied away
It's
from it
not
at the
worth
last
it.
moment. Greetings. My name is Joaquin, and I am indeed the Misfits writer for The Game House. It is an honor to be joined by you. Well, rather to join you, Drew.
So, I spoke a bit about it, or my views on it, in the solo segment I recorded earlier today. And from you as a journalist, we'll also have some views on the situation. So, when you first heard the rumours about Kobbe coming to Misfits from TSM, having just been benched for Doublelift, what was the first thought that came through your mind?
The very first word that came to my mind was optimism. I seriously thought that during the regular split, during the spring season especially, a lot of people underestimated B-Boy. A lot of people like to point out B-Boy as the weak link of the team. So the second top European AD carry from another region, especially in a team such as TSM, became available, everyone went crazy. They were like, finally, if we can get Kobbe, all of the problem, like the main problem of the team will be gone. But to be honest, considering the direction that the coaches and management wanted to take the team on, I wasn't sure if they were actually gonna go through with it. Because I thought that the idea for Misfits this year was to have a number of rookies and to have a solid veteran figure in Febiven that could guide them and develop them. And in my opinion, B-Boy by the end of the split was a completely new player. I thought that he did a good job adapting and developing and growing as a player, but in the end the change was made, and I was left a little bit shocked, I gotta say.
I entirely agree. I wasn't expecting that announcement to come through at all. I'd spent a good couple of weeks denying that Kobbe would be coming to Misfits, because from a coaching standpoint, it really didn't make much sense, at least on the surface. From what I could tell, it wasn't a great move. They'd worked with B-Boy for the entire split. He was getting better at his English. Obviously, was starting to understand the team more, based on how he played in the last few weeks of the split and playoffs. And I entirely agree with you saying that them pinpointing him as the weak point of the team was more common than not. But at the same time, I don't think we can really ignore the fact that he was by no means, for the majority of the split, a top tier AD carry that you would expect to be around the star players, including the rookie of the split in Razork and MVP candidate in Febby, especially considering Denick is quite this aggressive support and was really shackled back a bit during lane when laning with B-Boy, who does enjoy this more safe style. I don't agree with people calling B-Boy a D-tier AD carry like they have been doing, especially the likes of, I believe someone put it to me that Veteran had said B-Boy's D-tier. Anything is an upgrade to this. But at the same time, I don't think that he was by any means a top tier AD carry. Even come the end of the split, he was playing better, but he was still in that middle tier, trying to push up. He was with the likes of, he was above comp, kind of on level with Patrick, who we haven't really seen perform this split, nor last year too much either.
I think I would agree with you on that. It is true. Like, if we move on to the subject of if Kobbe was a good or a bad move, definitely from pure numbers, just from is Kobbe a better individual piece for a team than B-Boy, the obvious response would be yes. Like, I do believe that B-Boy had his problems. I do believe that he was indeed he could be considered safely the weakest player in Misfits. It's just, as somebody who researched his history personally, especially, it's very sad to see this happening to B-Boy again. And this is something we talked about earlier. My goodness,
this...
has B-Boy had bad luck.
Excuse me while I just adjust
Go
my
on,
camera so I can stand up. Oh, don't tempt me. I'll just sit on the bed instead. It's fine. It's fine. It won't go up any higher. I entirely agree with that point in that, having looked at his history, especially from the standpoint where, like I mentioned just before we started recording, he really hasn't had the... He can still be considered a rookie because the number of teams he's been on, the amount of games he's played, they don't add up. He hasn't played that many games at all, especially in a major region. What was it? I think it was 3 to 5 games in the LPL, and then half a split in Latin America.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, B-Boy was he did wonders for the team, but going by things he said himself during that Mischief episode they released, I don't think we can really blame the team for wanting to make this trade at all. And like you said, individually, Kobbe as a player, he is one of the most decorated AD carries Europe has ever seen. So by no means is that a bad trade, but at the same time, it's hard to see how he fits into the demographic of the team. A second veteran voice coming in could really realistically lead us to a similar time that we've had the past 2 years, where we have too many voices clashing and a clear decision is never met. I feel like that was a big problem that the squad had for a majority.
Especially in the Super Team 2019. That was a horrible problem.
Last year's team was a mess. Last year's team was an utter mess. The fact that they all got subbed out for the Premier Team alone says something. The players aren't bad. The players are great. I mean, Soaz is finding great success in NA. Hansama is doing great with Rogue. Maxwell is still not found a team from what I've heard. Gorilla's gone back to Korea and found a team in Sandbox.
Yes.
And Febby's still quite happy at home with Misfits. Looking at it objectively. Objectively, due to the past of the two players in this trade, being Kobbe and B-Boy, Kobbe will always come out on top. He's a consistent AD carry. He found a lot of success on Splice last year. He was one of the TSM's most consistent factors in this past split. And realistically, it's hard to pinpoint one thing that this AD carry does well. He can be aggressive, he can be defensive, he gives you late game insurance, he can give you early game insurance, because we all know his Lucian is a scary, scary pick. The question is, can Denek play around it? I think yes. I think Denek's style fits much more with Kobbe than it does with B-Boy.
Here's my question, just to close with the subject of B-Boy. My question, if I wanted to be a harsh critic of Misfits, would be, why even get B-Boy in the first place?
Many arguments against it. It has many arguments
during the
against
off-season.
it.
Like, during the off-season, everyone, when they announced B-Boy, everyone criticized the move. Well, on the one hand, because everyone hated Misfits because 2019, but on the other, because a lot of people were saying the AD carry position is absolutely stacked in Europe. Just look at whatever national league we have. A lot of AD carries. So why in the heck would you bring an AD carry like B-Boy, who has only played 5 games in a major region and has done nothing of notice? Why would you do it? And the coaches, Handro and Amazing, would go on a video and they would say that they brought B-Boy for very specific reasons. They knew he was exactly the kind of player that they wanted to bring in, and they had this vision of racing in rookies in order for them to become better and trust them. They have an absolute idea of what they want to do with B-Boy. And now, just one split later, with B-Boy being probably the weakest link in the team, but not being the greatest issue that the team has individually. Why, it baffles the mind that they would immediately be like, okay, leave, and now we're bringing Kobbe. Because if you seriously thought at the beginning of this year that you could work with him long term, then why would you be doing this? This makes sense from a pure business standpoint. It makes all the sense in the world. Kobbe is incredible, and I'm sure he's gonna bring a second veteran voice in the team, and maybe they can figure that dynamic out. But I'm seriously, it's something that you can criticize, because now
It's
B-Boy is left. Sorry, the one last thing.
no, it's
B-Boy
fine.
is left completely screwed. Where is he gonna go? There's nowhere for him to go, in
Co-
my opinion.
B-Boy's in the position Kobbe was in literally just a couple of months ago. Um, Without a team, nowhere to turn. But there are multiple reasons people have been giving for the B-Boy transfer. The first, and the one I see the most, is he was a budget buy. You know, you're spending
Yeah.
so much to keep Febvin, to keep Dan, and to stop them going off and finding a better team, because I guarantee you both got a lot of offers from teams. And then when you're spending out God knows how much to get Vodafone Giants 2-star players, to buy them out of their contracts, and then still pay them a salary that they're willing to take in an LEC setting,
Yeah. That has
it
to be a
makes
big
sense.
buyout.
The other reason is he did best fit the demographic, but you also have to think about availability. Maybe they wanted Kobbe from the start and couldn't get him because, well, I guess Splice had already organised the buyout with TSM. It was already happening. There was no way against that. And since he's become available and potentially teamless, he can accept low offers. His contract was cut by TSM. He can accept low offers. And bear in mind the fact that his girlfriend is already the sponsored streamer for Misfits. There's not really much conflict of interest that can go on there. As if they're, you know, like there could be if they were living together, TSM Misfits. I know she's not a big part of the whole league roster and whatnot, but she's probably one of the most influential streamers Misfits have alongside Vapora Dark for the league community. And Kobbe, he takes whatever offer Misfits gave, or he doesn't find a team, because I don't think any other team besides maybe Vitality would have made an offer, and even then Vitality are having too many issues for Kobbe to want to take that.
Yeah.
As for having screwed B-Boy over, yeah, B-Boy's in the exact same position Kobbe was before, but at the same time, I think B-Boy was expecting to be a temporary player. It definitely felt like he was more playing for the team to do well than for him to help, if that makes sense.
You're correct, and that's kind of what makes me a little bit angry. That at the end of the day, with this ending being like this ending marks the story of B-Boy in Misfits, and he's just a temporary player. It's really sad to see. He was brought on despite all of the questions, all of the doubts. The coaches came out, the analysts came out, everyone came out and said, "No, don't worry. We trust B-Boy. We put our faith in him." And then, bye-bye.
And
We found a replacement.
at the same time, it makes it really hard to trust anything that Yandro and Amazing are saying. I mean, if you look at this team during the split, there was a multitude of things they had to deal with. They Reddit AMA at the very start of the season. That went to shit. This whole video brought out by Yandro and Amazing, that's gone to shit now. During the split, they struggled against the likes of Rogue and Fnatic, but fell giants like G2 and Origin. And at the same time, were trying to work without their general manager, who had gone to hospital for surgery. Which has been publicly tweeted on the Misfits Twitter. There was a picture of the team sitting in the waiting room with Garki.
I remember that. That was actually kind of wholesome.
It was amazing, and the fact that the team are that close together, it shocks me. And the fact they've done what they've done while their general manager has been in a position where he realistically can't be doing much for them, it really does put a spanner in the works. As for the other two, this off-season has been crap for Amazing, let's be honest here. First, there was the
He's
LS
been involved
drama.
in a lot of drama.
First, there was the LS drama, and now there's this. People are going to struggle to trust his judgment from here. And bear in mind, he is their main drafter on stage. Yandra has his say, but ultimately leaves it mainly to Amazing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
See, what the problem arises now...
I will say...
is...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the problem arises now is, do the fans trust the coaches to make the right decision? Do they think that regardless of how good Kobbe is he going to be put in the position to show his worth, or is he just going to be shoved off to the back like B-Boy? Because if he is, why buy him? He excels at different things than B-Boy, and if you can't pinpoint that, B-Boy was the better option by far.
No, alright, here's the thing. I will answer to you. I will say, and this is like, I wanted to leave B-Boy on the one hand, and then talking about Kobbe on the other, because it's really important. I do think that on a vacuum, if we don't consider the situation, the bad situation B-Boy was left in, and the possible confusion that there was because he was trusted, but then he was treated as a temporary player. If we leave all of that behind, from a purely analytical standpoint, Kobbe is absolutely one of the best possible picks for this team.
Oh, I don't disagree.
And that's where... Huh? Oh.
I don't disagree.
Because, like, I do trust the judgment of Handro and Amazing on a personal level. Amazing this off-season, it is true, he has made some questionable comments, but to be fair, he's also owned up to them. Yeah, at least he apologized for the whole LS situation.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing in Kobbe, I think, is pretty much shows that they are aware of what the team does need. Because I did a little bit of research on Kobbe. I did a little bit of research on the kind of teams that he played in, the kind of compositions that he was usually put in, especially on Splice in 2019. And I was surprised because, contrary to B-Boy, like you say, during the laning phase, he falls a little bit behind, but then he does really well, especially during the later stages of the game. His execution in teamfights, can we agree? Like, his execution in teamfights is pretty freaking good.
He was an amazing damn player. For the late game, I can't disagree with that. His Zion, his Varus especially, he showed were top tier. But at the same time, Kobbe, as a contrast, does well in the early game, and then struggles a bit more in the late game. He's basically polar opposite.
Exactly. And ironically, that's what Misfits, like, the identity of Misfits as a team. They brought in 3 players to make one very strong, well, 2 players to make a very strong identity, which is Razork and Denik. Razork, I should call him Razork. Come on, I'm Spanish. Razork and Denik played together in Giants, like we said before, and basically the core that they had was them two with the mid laner, whose name I can never pronounce. It's written Milica, but I think it's pronounced Milica.
Oh, Vitality's current mid laner.
Yes.
Melissa, I think. I can't. Dracos has said it before, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Anyways, so that team was focused on the early game, especially because Razork likes to play the 3 champions that he knows how to play really, really, really well, which is Gragas, Lee Sin, and at the time Elise, but he also plays a really freaking good Echo.
And Sejuani.
And Denik is Sejuani. And Denik is an aggressive support who likes to play hook champions.
Fresh pipe.
He likes to roam. He likes to move around. So basically, what their general strategy would be if they could play their comfort picks is that they would play very aggressive picks in those 3 positions and do early to mid game oriented strategies, where the AD carry would either aim to scale to the late game alone to be a reliable damage dealer for a sort of insurance in the late game, or he would play a more early game oriented pick in order to help the skirmishes and roams. And here's the thing, Splice especially in 2019 where Kobbe played at his, well,
Eh.
he did a pretty good job. The kind of team compositions that they go like that are their comfort picks, all of them are very similar to these kinds of strategies. Like you go to their statistics and you see the most played champions, and the two most played supports that they have are Thresh, Nautilus, followed up by Rakan. And you go to the top laner. The top laner likes to play a lot of Gangplank, which is a champion that's heavily focused on the split push. And you see that Kobbe actually excels at the exact kind of strategy that Misfits want to base their whole team around. They want to have that strong core of Razork, who has synergy with Febiven, and they can set up plays with Denik, who can roam around, and Kobbe, who is someone who can who can handle himself. Sorry, during the earlier hang himself. Oh, that's horrible.
That's gonna go
Handle
down
himself
bad.
during the earlier stages of the game, and you can trust that he can, and at the same time he can play really aggressive and be a reliable damage dealer by the end of the game, because his most played AD carry, guess what is it?
Lucian.
Nope,
No?
Kai'Sa.
Wow. Oh yeah, yeah. That didn't come to mind. But if I just do divert, attention a second to Splice's roster last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was Vizicachi, Xerxes,
Yes.
Humanoid, Kobbe, and Torre, or Sirenn at the time. Chachi.
You earn a golden star.
Chachi loved to play these tanks. Chachi loved to just play for this late game. Xerxes, early mid game jungler. He loves to get Humanoid ahead. The only consistent factor, including when Splice went to Worlds last year, was Kobbe. They relied on him to carry these games, to make sure that he could push through and really shine. And Norscarin did an amazing job of making sure he could do that. But looking at what Misfits have done so far, they've definitely put more focus on the passive side of things. Making sure B-Boy is safe in lane regardless of where Denik is. If they try and do the same with Kobbe, it's not going to work. Kobbe isn't this kind of player to just sit there and farm for late game, because his playstyle in the Kai'Sa, in the Lucian, Ezreal as well, surprisingly, he looks for these early game fights. And if he's expected to play like B-Boy did, he's not going to adapt to it well. So in that regard, if they continue to try to run the strategy they did with B-Boy, I definitely think that this trade was possibly the worst idea they could have done. Because nobody does what B-Boy does better than B-Boy. Let's be honest here. Besides maybe Upset, but even then, Upset's a spanner in the works that I don't even want to touch on right now. Upset's a piece of work, if you ask me. But yeah, if they're still going to expect Kobbe to play this slow game,
we better keep your mouth off of Upset if we don't want a lot of backlash.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't want to ruin my career before it started. But yeah, if they're gonna put Kobbe on these more passive picks like they have with B-Boy, I don't see this trade going down very well. They definitely have to adapt their playstyle regarding Kobbe and let him have these more early game centric picks. The biggest issue I see here, though, with everything going on currently, is what if you can't make it back in time for what if the US don't release him in time for the summer split? They've already released B-Boy and they can't bring Jesu up. He's got another split to play with LFL.
Huh.
Where do they go?
I actually didn't consider that.
Yeah, exactly. If Kobbe, because Kobbe still hasn't been released. Can we just talk about that? Kobbe is still living in US. Kobbe is still in NA, and he said it on stream before. He is not streaming until he's back in EU. If he is not back before summer split for whatever reason, be it the current pandemic, or borders won't let him through, or he gets back late and is quarantined, he then can't play for the first week or two of the summer split, which then hurts Misfits because they can't compete without an AD carry, and they've already released B-Boy. If he's already gone back home, there's no bringing him back.
That's for sure.
Where do they stand? If Kobbe doesn't arrive in time for Summer Split, Misfits can't compete. They will have to take forced losses.
Drew, I don't know what's your concern here. The answer is completely obvious. I don't know why you're even bringing up this subject. Ronaldo AD carry,
Oh
baby.
boy.
You know it's coming.
Well, he's played every role but top and AD carry, from what I can tell.
No. He's played every role except top.
Did he play AD
But he's
carry?
played all the other ones. He play. I think AD carry was his first role, actually. I can look it up real quick. I think AD carry was his very first role. Ronaldo.
But even then, that's a death wish. I mean, looking at it, he's been practicing mid for the past half a year. It's a death wish.
Oh, darn, jungle was his first role.
Yeah.
Dang it.
I don't
I'm
actually
about
think
researcher.
he played AD carry. I genuinely don't think he played AD carry. I think, because he's only played 3 roles. It was top, or jungle, mid, and support. Because he was on support last year. He's back on mid now. He was on mid the year before, and when he first came in, he was a jungler.
That's weird. I will look it up later, but
Yeah.
I will look it up because I remember him playing AD carry, but I guess I might be wrong.
I think
But
he's been
yes,
with
like
Fnatic
Ronaldo
Rising
AD
for
carry,
enough.
undefeated. If he didn't play it, technically undefeated. Think about it.
But at the same time, he's not practiced it. It's like throwing caps into AD carry when he's been playing nothing but mid. He'll perform worse than he did throughout the entirety of the split.
Now, on a serious note, I think the physical problem of or concern of if Kobbe is even gonna be here or not by the time the split begins, that's another thing separately. As long as they haven't announced any difficulties, I mean, I know management makes mistakes, but I can at least trust them with the fact that when they bring in a player, they are aware that they have enough time to actually, fly him here.
They have enough time, but if the US Embassy decide, no, we can't let you go, especially given how prominent it is in the US at the moment, I mean, it's a very real factor to consider.
I would say, it is concerning. It is something that definitely, you have to wonder. You have to wonder if there's a due process for these kind of situations. If before finishing the deal, they investigate to see, okay, we have enough time. They research to see, okay, we have enough time. The U.S. government will allow for this player to move from here to here. I would imagine that that would be a minimum requirement to do it. But yeah, what would happen if Kobbe is not even here?
What would be stuffed?
It
He'd
would be a
have to
disaster.
play from NA. He'd have to play
It
from
would
NA.
be a disaster.
It would be an absolute
my
disaster,
goodness.
especially since I don't know who the first team they face is.
Playing from NA, 60 pink.
Reminds me of someone. I don't know who though. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut
Alright.
before I get a slap.
Point is, I think Kobbe, personally, I think he's definitely a tool that if they use to his maximum potential, if they adapt the playstyle to his needs, which is in theory, it's everything that they would want, because I research all of these players individually in order to make my pieces of them. Check thegamehouse.com writer Joaquin. Anyways,
I will
individually.
link the article you wrote on the whole Kobbe B-Boy thing in the description of the video when I get it edited and posted.
Oh, why, thank you. That's actually really kind.
I mean, you
Dandan,
were kind enough to join me, so
Dandan is a player who's absolutely his montages, his best plays are made with champions like Vladimir, like Jax, champions that like to scale up, that like to have a lot of space, which he played with a core in which there was an aggressive pick in other roles.
yeah.
So him with an early game jungler, with an early game mid laner, with a roaming support,
And
with an
AD
AD carry like
who can do
Kobbe,
anything. And
like everything fits so well in theory. The only thing that I could think could hold them back is the meta. Because why did B-Boy play passive the whole split? Because the meta was Aphelios Misfortune.
And there was nothing he could
No
do
matter
against it.
what your no matter what your specialty is as an AD carry, the meta conditions you more probably than many other roles. Like this split, if you wanted to win, Aphelios Misfortune. Varus, if you're feeling experimental.
And then, of course, with the current off-season, AD carry just doesn't feel like it's a role anymore. With the amount of things that can one-shot you, you're very scared. I'm interested to see what the pros do with AD carry come summer split, because as far as I'm concerned, unless you're on a pick like Kai'Sa and can snowball, you can't do anything.
Right now, they are introducing the AD carry changes. Riot has already announced a boost in base HP for the AD carry class, excluding excluding AD carries that do well in solo lanes. So
Tristana, Misfortune, Kate, Senna.
If the planets align and they are able to make it all work, Kobbe is not only a direct upgrade to B-Boy, but he could make Misfits one of the most dangerous teams in the league. Like, to me, they would be a solid 4th place behind the typical top 3 Origin Fnatic G2.
They're in contention for 3rd.
And even then...
They're in contention with Origin
yes,
for 3rd. I said it before and I will say it again.
I would put them definitely in contention for 3rd. And I think the trade could have excellent results, especially this year. Like, everything is aligning for Misfits. The fact that they changed the format of Worlds because MSI cannot be held this year.
Yep.
Because if it was the whole league, then it would be questionable if at best if Misfits could get into Worlds, because alright, G2 first seed, Fnatic 2nd seed, and then
contending with Origin for the 3rd seed.
Everyone fighting for the 3rd seed. But now that there's a change in format, and if I'm not wrong, there are 4 seats for major regions.
Yes, 4 seats for LEC, LPL, 3 for LCK, LCS. The LPL and the LEC are the only ones that got 4.
It's an incredible opportunity, and for Kobbe, getting out, like, we commented a lot of B-Boy, oh, poor guy, he got out of Misfits, that's unfortunate for him, but Kobbe getting out of TSM,
well, especially with everything going on right now, exactly. TSM is not a team I would want to be part of, and I would not have liked to have seen the whole Lina conversation if Kobbe genuinely hadn't been picked up by Misfits, because it wouldn't have been a Dardock conversation, it would have been a Kobbe conversation.
Yep.
Lucky for us, he was picked up. But just closing thoughts, I definitely think that if Kobbe's allowed to do what he wants, what he does best, he can shine. This Misfits roster is definitely in contention for 3rd. But bear in mind, 2 of the picks he loves will not be getting buffs. Lucian and Ezreal. Ezreal can do well in the solo lane. The only other one that comes to mind right now is Tristana. Because of course mid Trist, mid Lucian have been, and mid Ezreal who have been relatively strong.
Yeah.
Tristana and Lucian to a pro play standpoint. Ezreal is more of a niche pick, but can still hold his own, especially with certain rune sets and builds and whatnot. He can become this really, really tanky machine if built right. Granted, it takes away from his damage, which isn't what people want. They want their Ezreal to be doing something, but it's besides the point. Ultimately, Kobbe has a lot of potential with this team. He has more potential with this team than he did with TSM. I feel like he can do better than he did last year with Splice, and he can go to Worlds for the 2nd year in a row. He can attempt with this team to prove himself and have another miracle run like Misfits had in 2017, except this time the LCK isn't in the way to shut them down, because the LCK is still playing old League of Legends. The LCK haven't caught up.
I am very, very interested about the possibility of T1 versus Misfits again.
If it happens, I think the outcome's different. If it happens, the outcome's different. Maybe even...
Also,
Origin or Rogue
consider
as well.
this. For Kobbe, now the match between T1 and Misfits would be personal, because the T1 was the team that eliminated Splice.
So we still
That's
have
poetic.
that
Come
reason.
on.
That is. If it happens, it happens. I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but thank you for joining me. It's been wonderful having your insight on the situation.
This was a really nice conversation we just had. I had a really good time.
I'm glad. As I say, I will have the article that Jay wrote on Kobbe and Bvoy in the description when this is all done. I hope this, plus the video I made earlier, definitely gives my insight as an aspiring coach as to clarify this trade a bit, to help people understand that it's not all rain clouds. There is sunshine and rainbows behind it. Thank you everybody for watching this 2-part little analysis, and I'm sure that over the next few weeks you'll hear a lot more from me. Bye bye.
And from me as well. At Joaquin TGH Twitter. Follow me. I post memes.
I will have everything in the description for him. Bye all.